Welcome to the Pint Glass Football Podcast.
What's up, PGF Nation? We are back on this episode. We are previewing two of the biggest NFL games and two top 25 college football games this weekend and making betting picks for each one. I'm your host, Brad Fowler. Here with me, as always, my co-host, Alex Higdon. Alex, let's kick this off. I want to start in the NFL here with an Eagles-Broncos matchup that I think is an interesting game here because I think the Broncos are a little bit better than their record, and they just came off of a really impressive performance, granted against the Bengals, but they looked really sharp. The Eagles, as we know, are undefeated. And looking at this matchup, I'm questioning what I'm seeing here with the Philly offense. I'm not sure they're comfortable with the new system. It's just not clicking yet. The passing game, we know, just isn't there where they want it to be. The run game, it's been okay, but not nearly what we saw from last season. I think the defense is still a little bit questionable in certain areas. They're giving up a lot more big plays than we saw last year. And when you look at Denver, I think the defense for Denver is still really strong. We know they've got great corners, great playmakers up front, a really good pass rush. And my only concern really for Denver is I think at times they can struggle to push the ball down the field. But when I look at this matchup, I really like Denver here, and it really has more to do with the point spread. I think Denver is a little bit undervalued. I would expect this line to be a lot closer to 3, maybe 3.5. Right now, I'm seeing this line at 5.5. So with those points, I know they're on the road, not an easy place to play, but I like the Broncos getting 5.5 here, Alex. What about you?
Yeah, I'm actually going to take the Broncos straight out. Listen, the Eagles we have seen over the past 2 weeks, the Eagles have had a -1 in the first half. And in this game, in the second half, I believe they only had 20 yards of offense in the second half. With this Broncos defense getting to the quarterback, being feisty, I think this is the first time that we're going to see all of the things that you just mentioned, Brad. All of those things are going to come to the forefront here. And eventually, the Broncos are going to eventually win this game outright and cover.
So I'm taking the points. Alex got the money line here. I like that bet. Let's shift here. Seahawks-Buccaneers. I think this is one of the better games, too, that we're going to see this weekend. Seattle right now is a 3.5-point favorite against Tampa Bay. Bucky Irving being out for the Buccaneers definitely makes betting on them a little less appealing. But when I start looking at this matchup, Alex, Sam Darnold is a guy who's played really well in this offense so far for Seattle. I think he's done a really good job versus pressure. And on the opposite side, I think Seattle can really generate a lot of pressure on other teams' quarterbacks without blitzing. If you look into the analytics, they don't blitz a lot and they generate a lot of pressure from their front four. With all that being said, though, I still feel like Seattle is maybe a little overrated right now as far as the value. I think the Buccaneers, this is a bounce back spot for them. When you look at their defense, they can generate relentless pressure on opposing quarterbacks, second best in the league. And here's the key, 3.5. That is such a key number. We know once you get over that field goal number, there's a lot of value there on the underdog. So I'm going to take Buccaneers plus 3.5. I think this is going to be a good game. I think it's going to be probably a low scoring game. And I think a field goal could decide it. So give me the 3.5 points for the Bucs.
Even though the Bucs are hobbled on that offensive line, obviously Mike Evans is still up in there. He hasn't had any activity yet, so he's still up in there. But again, like I mentioned last week, Chris Godwin is back. This will be a second week, a full week of practice. And Mecca Buka still performed against the Eagles. I'm going to take the Bucs here simply because I just don't think the Seahawks have enough firepower. And they've been holding back and benching Tariq Woolen. I think that's going to be a way that they'll be able to pick on them because they're going to need Tariq Woolen whether they put him in the slot or in the outside, because as these receivers continue to get healthy for the Bucs, he's going to have to be a player here, and I think they're going to be able to pick on him when they start to spread the Seahawks out there. So give me the Bucs money line.
I like it. Taking some money line bets here, Alex. Alex, we've got two top 25 college football matchups that we're going to hone in on here. We've got Miami, Florida State, huge Saturday night matchup. Number 3 Miami at number 18 Florida State. It's been a long time since this was one of those big games. And this feels like, for the first time in a long time, that it is a very big game in the ACC. These rivals going at it here. Look, when I look at Florida State, I'm going to start there. This team is really a team that's built to play out in front. So I think the start of this game is going to be really important for them. I think they need to get out to a quick start and get an early lead in this game to kind of stay on track with what they want to do. My big concern here, though, is I think Miami has a huge advantage in the trenches. If Florida State can't generate pressure on Carson Beck, I think it could be a problem. When you look at them, their pass rush grade, according to PFF, not very good. Their run blocking grade, not great. The offensive and defensive lines for Miami is a big advantage. Now, look, they might have the best O-line, D-line combination in the entire nation. They're that good up front. And I think that's what troubles me about this matchup. On paper, Miami should probably win this game easy. But I think schematically, I think FSU in their run game might be able to create some things here. This line opened Miami -6.5. It's moved to -4.5. And when I first started looking at this game closely, Alex, I was immediately thinking Miami all the way. They're going to cover. They could probably run away with this, and they might. But that line movement is very, very interesting. It got me rethinking this matchup. I'm a little nervous to take FSU here, but this is a rivalry game. It's on the road for Miami, and that line movement has me rethinking my pick here. I'm going to take FSU plus 4.5. Am I crazy?
No, you're not crazy, even though I'm going to still take Miami, but I agree with you. Similar to the NFL, when you get to these teams that know each other, obviously it's a rivalry. It's an in-state rivalry as well as the ACC rivalry, because as you know, these two teams are also chasing the same big-time Florida players as recruiting them as well. So it means a lot. It's 3 tiers in terms of what it means for these two schools. But no, this is a game that can go either way. It's not a whole you're picking Florida State, and that's no, it's that close. But I'm going to take Miami, but can understand from your perspective.
Yeah, and it might be a bounce back spot after they lose a tough, hard-fought game against Virginia. I don't know if that was a look-ahead spot. Maybe that's what happened here. Maybe they were a little too focused on this game. Alex, let's shift to the SEC because there's a top 25 matchup down there. Alabama versus Vanderbilt. When's the last time Alabama-Vanderbilt was a top 25 matchup? Man, it's almost crazy even saying it out loud. But look, we've seen this Vanderbilt program is on the rise. And these last couple of years, they're really moving in the right direction. This is not your dad's Vanderbilt. This certainly isn't even your big brother's Vanderbilt squad. This team is tough. They're well coached. They are not afraid to take on these big blue blood programs from the SEC. And we saw Vandy pick off Alabama last year in what was a shocker. And then we come to find out as the year plays on, look, Vandy's pretty good. And I think a lot at the time we thought it was this huge, massive upset. And in a lot of ways it was. But I think as we saw through the rest of the year, Vanderbilt's a competitive team. And this is not going to be an easy game for Alabama. When I look at this matchup, what worries me about Vanderbilt is their secondary has given up a lot of big downfield plays. And we've seen, and we talked about how good Ty Simpson is playing for Alabama right now. Vandy has not faced a quarterback like this in a receiving group like Alabama. So I think it's going to be key for Vanderbilt to get a pass rush and get some pressure on Simpson to try to speed him up, try to get him off of his spot, because if he can sit in this pocket and get comfortable, I think that that's going to be a mismatch. But on the other side, Alex, Alabama's defense, they've got a lot of injuries. This unit is really beat up right now, and I think their depth is being tested, and this isn't Nick Saban's Alabama Crimson Tide. This isn't the days when they had 5 stars backing up 5 stars, backing up 5 stars. Those days are gone. It's just impossible to do that anymore. Now, their defense held up against Georgia, but this Vanderbilt offense, I think, is better than Georgia's. And that Vanderbilt offensive line has been much better in pass protection and run blocking than they were a year ago when they knocked off Alabama, and they've got more playmakers this year. So I think this is a faster, better version of Vandy. Now, granted, I think Alabama might be a little better than they were last year too. Can Alabama handle a better Vandy offense? Can Ty Simpson continue to play mistake-free football and get those explosive plays versus a Vandy team that has a better pass rush than we've seen in years past? Vanderbilt, with their improved offensive line and their playmakers, can they take some shots down the field and get some explosive plays of their own? I think this is a really fascinating matchup, Alex, and I'm curious to get your thoughts here because this game opened with Alabama minus 11.5. It's moved a little bit. It's down to just minus 10.5. I think the value here is Vanderbilt plus 10.5. Look, mark that down for something I never thought I'd say on this podcast. But plus 10.5, I think this game could be close. And I think that line movement, even though it's not a big line movement, it's shifting a little bit towards Vandy, which tells me that some of these pro bettors feel good about Vandy getting double digits here. What do you think, Alex?
Yeah, I'm actually going to agree with you here on the 10.5. I believe Alabama will win, but I think you take Vandy plus the 10.5. And the reason I say that is coming off that Georgia win, you usually have a letdown game. That's just typical, kind of a bunch of different players, unless you just have this juggernaut of a team. But I'm with you there. Alabama wins, but I think Vandy with the 10.5, they'll be playing. Alabama will be playing down to Vandy in a sense, even though it's in Tuscaloosa. I agree with you there. Two other things I want to say, Brad, before we get out of here. I want to give a nugget for a prop bet on Cam Scatterbo getting over 100 yards rushing against the Saints next week, even though I think the Giants may win. I think the Saints actually win that game, but Scatterbo getting 100 yards. And everybody should be taking a real close look at that Texas-Florida game and that line. That line is only 6.5. That game is in Florida. Florida's coming off of a bye. That's a very interesting game at only 6.5 with the way that Florida's playing and Texas being what they should be and starting to gear up. I would keep an eye on that game and maybe live bet it at some point.
Man, you know what? I like it. I like throwing in some of these bonus picks, Alex, for you guys. Hope you wrote those down here because I'm with you. Love what I've seen from Scatterbo. Obviously, with the injuries in the running back room, he's really getting the lion's share of touches. And with the young quarterback, they're going to lean on the run heavy to try to take some pressure off of Jackson Dart. So I really like that prop bet. And I'm with you. When I saw that line, it was very, very telling that it was that close considering how bad Florida has looked this year. But the one thing that hasn't looked bad for that team is the defense. That defense has been playing at a high level. It's been DJ Lagway in the offense, giving the ball away too much, not being able to sustain drives that's really killed them in a lot of these games. Arch Manning, big name quarterback with a lot of talent, but we've seen some kind of bumps in the road here while he's grown into the starting role. Now playing against a very good defense, this could get really interesting. I'll tell you what, I like the under in that game because I think it could be a defensive battle. We know Texas has a really good defense. I think it's going to come down to which one of these young quarterbacks takes care of the football. And that could really tell you a lot about this game. But that line, Alex, is very, very interesting. So I like those bonus picks, Alex. Look, guys, if you enjoyed the show, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future episodes. If you haven't already, go check out the YouTube page. We've got video podcasts over there, video content that is exclusive to YouTube. So go ahead and check that out when you're done listening here. But once again, guys, I'm Brad Fowler. He's Alex Higdon. This is Pint Glass Football, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Pint Glass Football podcast. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on Twitter at PGFPOD.